I learned early that food tastes better when it's not free. School lunch was technically for everyone, but if you didn't pay for it, the whole cafeteria knew. You ate off a different tray, sat under the invisible banner with big bold letters that said, "Welfare Kid." Hunger isn't just a stomach thing. It's everywhere. It gets in your clothes, your skin, your bones. People smell it on you. I was the free lunch kid with the second-hand hoodie, and the bruises I swore were from football. Only I never played football. I was never allowed to. Tyler said I ran like a bitch, and Brent just liked throwing the ball at my head. They weren't my real brothers, just the biological sons of a man who got paid to keep me alive. Gary, my foster dad, didn't care what they did to me. He just told CPS I was quiet and slow to warm up. Every week the food stamps came, every month the check, and I knew better than to mess up a man's income stream. I slept in the basement, no windows, just insulation and spider webs, and the smell of rot in the pipes. It was cold even in summer. Gary said it built character. What it built was silence. He didn't hit me. He just turned up the TV when Tyler slammed my head into the wall, or when Brent pissed in my shoes and called it a lesson in humility. And CPS, they came once a month, looked around, asked if I was okay, and left with a signature. As long as I was breathing and passing math, I was just a number in a file marked low risk. That's probably why I went with them that day. Tyler said they'd found something cool in the woods. He never talked to me unless he was bored, or bored of hurting me. Brent, the younger one, said it was a shelter, or maybe a bunker. He was grinning like he couldn't hold the secret in his cheeks. I already knew it was a trap, but something in me still wanted to believe it could be. We crossed the frozen soybean field behind the water tower, ducked past the collapsed fence. The trees swallowed the light. The trail wasn't really a trail, just worn grass and boot prints that never led back. Tyler kicked a branch out of the way. "Almost there," he said, like we were going to Six Flags. Brent spit into his palm and rubbed it across his face like war paint. I lagged behind, pretending my shoes were untied. They stopped at a clearing. In the middle was this concrete lid, circular, wide, like someone had tried to cover a mouth that wouldn't shut. "Look in there," Tyler said, lifting the edge with both hands. I leaned over and said, "I can't see." Then Brent shoved me. My ribs hit the lip. My head bounced off the ladder rungs. The sky spun, and then everything stilled. When I woke up, it smelled like wet pennies and mildew. The walls were dirt mostly, some stone, some old roots like broken fingers reaching through the seams. I wasn't dead, but I wasn't going to last long either. I yelled until my throat cracked, quiet, so they wouldn't hear if they were still close. Then I talked, to keep myself from losing count of the hours, to prove I was still a person and not just something buried. I talked to this thing growing out of the wall. It was a twisted little mass of vines or moss, I don't know. But when I told it, I was cold. One of its leaves shifted toward me. When I told it I didn't want to die in a pit, another vine twitched. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe it was the fever. Maybe it was the first thing that ever listened without wanting anything back. I drank the rainwater pooling near my feet, chewed on pine bark to keep my teeth moving. By day 2, I was hallucinating, or dreaming maybe. The thing had tiny flowers now, purple, pulsing gently, like it was breathing. "I'll bring you snacks if you get me out of here," I joked, and something in the dark behind the roots nodded. By the 3rd day, the hunger stopped growling and just curled up. My thoughts got weird. I started naming the vines like they were classmates. I told one of them a joke about cafeteria fish sticks. It didn't laugh, but it leaned toward me. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, fast, scrambling, then stopping. Muffled voices up top. Too far to make out, just noise. I tried to yell, but it came out dry and broken. Then the rustle of someone kneeling. A sharp beam of light knifed down through the dark. Her voice cracked like it didn't belong in a place like this. "You down there?" I wanted to speak. Instead, I coughed. The light swayed. I saw her face. Barely. Freckles, red jacket, scared eyes. She turned to someone beside her and said louder than I'd ever heard her speak in school, "He's alive." They dropped a rope. A voice followed. "Tie it around your waist. Tie it tight." His hands were rough but careful. The air outside felt wrong. It was too clean, too big for my lungs, like someone had swapped the world out while I was gone. I collapsed as soon as my feet hit grass. She knelt beside me, holding a water bottle. Her face was full of this look I couldn't read, relief and worry and something I didn't recognize. Care, maybe. I wanted to cry. Instead, I puked on her shoes. She didn't flinch, just opened a plastic baggie and offered me a pack of crackers. "You probably need these more than I do." I took them, held them in both hands like they might disappear. She stood up, paused, then said goodbye, like it was a gift. When I came home, drenched, starving, they barely blinked. Tyler waited until Gary was passed out on the couch, grabbed me by the collar and pinned me to the fridge. "You open your mouth," he hissed, "and she gets it." "Lacey?" I asked, too dumb to lie. He smiled. "Guess we're clear then." Brent stood behind him, chewing sunflower seeds and flicking the shells onto the floor. "Should have died in that hole," he muttered. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I stared at the ceiling and felt the vines from the bunker twitching in my blood. The day after CPS asked me questions, with soft voices and cold eyes, and I answered the way Gary taught me, with half-truths that didn't shake the check. Brent faked tears. Tyler shrugged a lot. No one questioned them. I waited 2 days, then I went back. The bunker had changed. The crack in the stone lid had widened, moss curling around the edges like tongues waiting for something sweet. I climbed down without thinking. The roots had spread. They pulsed now, thick black-veined vines like intestines strung along the ceiling. The flowers had multiplied, opening and closing in slow, wet movements, as if they were breathing through their teeth. Lacey never asked what happened. She just started sitting closer to me at lunch, stopped flinching when my eyes stayed on hers too long. One day, she slid a sandwich across the table without a word. It had pickles. She didn't know I hated pickles. I ate it anyway. She said she had nightmares sometimes, about that place, about my voice in the dark. I said nothing, but I went back to the clearing again, and again, and again. I brought offerings, bits of meat stolen from Gary's freezer, roadkill wrapped in towels, a possum, a stray dog that bit me. The roots took everything, never spit it out, never left bones. Just a hiss, a quake, and the wet swallowing sound of something accepting. It was a Friday when they cornered me, said they knew I ratted them out, said if I breathed a word to anyone again, they'd shut me up for good. Brent had a crowbar. Tyler had a flashlight. I had nothing. They dragged me back to the woods. I didn't scream, but someone saw. Lacey. I caught her eyes between the trees. She followed us. Quiet. Careful. Stupidly brave. I wish she hadn't. At the bunker, Brent cracked the lid open. Tyler turned and drove his fist into my gut. I folded. Time to go home, roach bait. They shoved me forward. I didn't resist. I jumped. The fall snapped something in my wrist. I screamed. Didn't care who heard. Above me there was shouting, then scuffling. Then Lacey's voice, furious, scared. Then silence. Then her body hit the dirt beside me. She groaned, dazed. They climbed down next, slow and smug, like they were about to put down a sick dog. The vines moved too fast, a sound like teeth on wet concrete. The walls bloomed with blossoms the color of liver and ash. Brent turned to run. Didn't make it. The roots pierced his calf and dragged him screaming across the floor. He vanished beneath a curtain of red thorns. Tyler tried to swing the crowbar. Missed. Something wrapped around his throat, lifted him 2 feet off the ground. He kicked for longer than I thought a person could kick. Then silence, and then chewing. Lacey stared at me like I'd just torn off my face. I limped to her, tried to say something. She flinched. I didn't blame her. We climbed out together one rung at a time, but we didn't speak again for a week. That was the beginning of the quiet, of the feeding, of the thing inside me blooming. By the time I turned 15, the vines had overtaken the clearing. What used to be a patch of woods behind a soybean field now looked like the inside of a mouth. Roots strangled trees, vines spread out like veins from a bloated heart. There were no more flowers, only mouths. I kept feeding it. Not often at first, a possum, a raccoon, a dying deer hit by a truck. Then a man who tried to mug me behind the Walmart loading dock. After that, it got easier. A substitute teacher who laughed when I stuttered. A neighbor who beat his kid until the walls shook. A man from church who touched my neck too long when he said, "Bless you." It took them all. It never left bones. It knew how to clean its plate. I told myself it was justice, that feeding it meant fewer monsters walking around. But I wasn't picky anymore. Didn't need a reason, only hunger. I stopped going to school. Told CPS, Gary kicked me out and moved me to a friend's trailer. No one checked. I got by on food stamps, stolen ID cards, handouts from strangers who didn't look twice. Sometimes I'd hear Lacey's name at the gas station. She's going to college soon. She volunteers at the shelter. She's a good girl. Sometimes I saw her on the sidewalk laughing, pink in the cheeks, soft in the eyes. She waved once. I didn't wave back. That winter, the hunger changed. The vine stopped humming when I came close. It stopped twitching when I offered it meat. I think it wanted something else. I think it wanted me. I stopped sleeping. The bunker started calling to me, soft at first, then louder, a whisper through pine needles, a groan in my chest, a weight behind my ribs. I knew what I had to do. The walk there was slow, the snow was thick, the trees were thinner than I remembered. At the edge of the clearing, I dropped my jacket, laid out my last offering, a pack of crackers, soft with age, the kind Lace used to give me. I climbed down into the pit barefoot. The vines were warm. The roots curled toward me like welcome arms. I whispered, "I'm ready," a voice real, not imagined, not fever-born. Lacey. She stood at the lip of the bunker, crying, hands shaking. "Please don't do this, you don't have to. Whatever this is, whatever you've done, it's not too late." She climbed down, stood inches from me, still freckles, still the only person who ever called me human. And I could have stopped, I could have cried, could have said thank you, but instead, I reached for her wrist. She screamed once, fought hard, but I was bigger now, hungrier, hollow in all the places that should have held love. The roots came fast. They wrapped her legs, her arms, her face. Her breath broke into bubbles of blood and wet silence. And then she was gone. The bunker shook, not like it was collapsing, but like it was full, like it had eaten its fill and was resting now, like satisfaction, like the final click of a locked door. The vines curled around my legs, soft as breath, warm as blood. I didn't fight. I sat down in the rot. Let it take my weight. Let it taste my skin. Above me, the sky flickered like a dying bulb. I looked at the empty snack wrapper in my palm, still crinkled from her fingers. I could have screamed, could have begged. But then I leaned back and let it close its mouth.